Welcome to Safety Third. I'm your host, Kevin Kohler. This is our host, number 2, Bernard. We have William Osman is back, and NileRed is in the chat.
I'm in the chat.
Nigel Red.
All right, guys, I have a question about science. I want to do a video where I measure the speed of cringe.
In what sense?
I don't know.
Like a
It
physical...
sounded like a funny title, and now I'm trying to figure out what the video would be.
Like in the sense of like an individual or among people?
Among us. Okay, I measured about a half a second there, so I think the speed of cringe is about...
Like contagious cringe?
I mean...
You know, like one kid starts
okay.
doing a Fortnite dance, and then some other kids start doing a Fortnite dance.
Is Fortnite dance actually cringe, though? That was a trick question, guys. It is cringe. The answer is yes.
If you're over the age of 12, yes.
Then it's... I feel like there's definitely a
But then it
bell curve
becomes
there, 'cause
like
if you're over the age
yeah.
of like 60, Fortnite dancing becomes not cringe again. It's like funny at that point.
Exactly. There's like, you know, some valley of cringe.
There are a lot of parallels between being old and being very young, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean?
It's basically the
Pooping your
same
pants.
thing,
Yeah,
right?
like you
both
end up
wear
reverting
diapers.
back to your old ways. So I guess cringe works in that sense too.
You can get away with almost anything, except this time you're aware that you can get away with almost anything.
Yeah.
See, that's... Sorry, I have a question. And this is like a genuine question that I've wondered.
This is like the way you
so-
stated that is kind of like I'm preparing for a where do babies come from kind of question.
It is. It's just a question. So kids are naive, but that makes sense because they haven't had a lot of time for their brains to collect data to not be naive. But as people get older, right? Like
That is
you get to a
such.
certain age.
That is the most like I don't even know how to describe like awful way of describing like growing up, acquiring data.
collecting data. As I said it, I thought it was funny.
As the human acquires more data.
I just thought it was funny.
What
Okay, but
is
wait.
childhood but collecting
Wait, just
data?
okay, so
It's
I'm
crazy.
not sure I want to let you finish.
as you continue collecting data,
Okay.
it reaches a point where like you're 18 and you do something, everyone just gets mad at you because they go, you should know better by now.
Right.
Right? But wait, Bernard disagrees.
Well, I contend 26 is the year that you become an adult. But
Okay, Bernard. These are it could be any at some point in adulthood, you should know better. It becomes a valid
Right.
complaint. But as you
Yeah.
get older and you continue to collect more life experience, at some point you start getting, I don't understand, like you get old enough that they kind of like, they go, oh, it's like as an old person, you get scammed by like, you know, you become very naive and trusting of everybody. And I'm like, how? Like
It's because their hard
When
drive
we
is failing
talked
and
about
they're
last
losing their
week.
data.
No, but these, I'm not saying people who have like any degenerative disease or any memory problems. It's like they just somehow, maybe they were always like that, but why is it like older people tend to be more susceptible to scams?
Okay,
but
we
they
get it.
should
Old people
be
suck.
less susceptible. No,
All
they
right,
should be
guys.
less susceptible.
All in favor of old people suck, raise your hand and say I. What? Only two of us.
Bernard and I are objecting.
Old people suck. I admit it. I'm going to be old one day, and I'm going to suck. You guys just won't admit it.
Yeah.
Trust me. You guys are going to suck too.
But Kevin, at what point? Like right now, if you get a call and someone says like, "Hi, this is the IRS. You owe us $5,000, or the police are at your door." At what age does that become believable?
So it's not an age. So it's the fact that it's an experience because in the grand scheme of things, all of us are going to end up getting audited by the IRS at some point in our life.
Uh-oh.
And the thing is, when that kind of call happens, like it's a social engineering scam, right? And so because they know that there's certain percentage of people have been audited by some point in their life, by doing that, you're preying on the fear of somebody who has already been audited. And they think, oh my God, I owe $5,000. What is this, right? Like, I'll just tell you from experience, like, you know, my dad got audited.
Are we talking about taxes again?
Right? We're
Are we
back on the
wait a
topic.
second. No. In
We're
the
back.
Discord server, I said, if someone brings up taxes again, I'm going to beat them with a rubber hose.
He did not talk about taxes explicitly. He merely talked about the agency that.
So it preys on
Audits
past
taxes.
experience. Okay, so let's take the taxes
You have
out
to
of
use
that.
an example other than the IRS.
I've got one. I'll save you, Bernard. fake kidnappings. I've been seeing
Where
this.
their grandkids get kidnapped.
Exactly. I think my grandma fell for this too, but she won't admit it. You know, it's like they call you and they're like, hey, your daughter's, we have your daughter. She's kidnapped. And then the dad's like, oh my God, what do I do? You know, and they're really good about social engineering the whole thing. They're like, you can't tell anybody or there'll be consequences. You have to go do this. It's like, they make you feel like it's urgent. And then you go pay money, like, to some Bitcoin address, $4,000, and your little girl's in school the whole time. But you're like, oh, there's kidnappings. This kind of thing happens. So you think it's happening to you, but you're just, I don't know.
I used to think people who fall for scams like that were absolute morons. And then I got about that close
To getting scammed?
to getting scammed. And it has to do with this podcast and activating AdSense on it.
Oh,
I
yeah.
don't know how it happened, but it was like the planets aligned and God came down, and some sin I had done in that past week, like everything aligned for this perfect optical smite of the power of the sun focused onto William Osman. That in that one day, I got a message. You know how Google Gmail will have the chat, like it has Google Chat. It's kind of horrible, but whatever, it's there. Of someone telling me, claiming to be from Google, that I had 2 AdSense accounts and that you're only allowed to have 1 AdSense account, which is true, and that they were going to delete all my AdSense accounts or terminate the channel or something. And I was sitting there thinking to myself, this looks like a scam, but I literally just activated a second AdSense account like yesterday.
Perfect timing.
I was sitting there like my brain was broken because like everything was screaming scam, but all the details, like it was like precision timing.
I remember that scam was going around.
I was freaking
I got the
out.
message.
The scam guy fell for it.
I know. You don't have to feel bad, Will.
No, I do feel bad because it's like if I'm telling,
You almost
if I think
lost
people
all
are
of her
stupid,
precious money.
I actually don't know
precious safety
what they
third
would have
money.
done. What are they doing? Fishing for your password or something?
I don't know. I think.
Yeah.
I guess so. Yeah.
Well, I was very suspicious, and I know for a fact the rules are that you're allowed to have multiple AdSense accounts for different entities, right? So if you have a business structure, you can have an AdSense account for it. And the Google AdSense system, I think, is one of the worst systems that Google has. Like it is truly like a disaster. And so you have to make a new AdSense account if you have a different entity, and you're allowed to do that. You're not allowed to have 2 AdSense accounts as a person. This is like my big issue with like YouTube being very, very like bad at communication with creators, is because there's not a super, like if you don't have a contact that you can go to for like with problems like this, they do have contact information, but it's like, it's just, I don't know if you guys have really ever had to contact them. It's convoluted enough where I went straight to like the highest level person that I knew at YouTube, who's sort of just on their own time will communicate with people on Discord. And I said, I have no idea what this is. Is my channel going to be deleted? Because if you send a message, like there's not guarantee that you'll actually get an immediate response. And so I went straight to him, and he like funneled it immediately, and the account that had messaged me was terminated within like 30 minutes. But I will never think as harshly again about people who fall for these IRS scams or any of these other scams after going through that, because it was like, it actually broke me because I didn't know. I genuinely did not know what to do. Like everything was too convenient. Everything lined up too well. Like imagine if you're an old person and your kid goes out of town and you get a kidnapping thing and you're like, it's like too perfect.
No, but that I understand. I'm talking. There's a lot of scams where people things don't align. Like they're kind
Right.
of just that. I would say like if someone claims they kidnapped your kid, I was like, it's a pretty bold move. Like this is a scam, and you just hang up and continue on your day. Like even if you think it's a scam, like that's still kind of irresponsible. Like you should do some figuring out. I was gonna say though, I did get the that chat that went around, but it was I didn't even bring it up with anyone because what I do is I'm paranoid about getting scammed all the time. So even like if I get emails from official stuff, like if PayPal emails me and says there's a problem with the account, like you never click the links, you log on independently to the website, right? Or if like when I get a phone call and people claim they're from a company, I won't call back the number they give me. I'll call back with the number I find on the official website.
Right. Yep. That's
but-
a big thing.
So when that
I feel like
number,
there's
that thing
a
popped
flow
up on.
chart. You could.
Sorry,
Oh
when
my
that thing
God,
popped
this-
up for the
latency
Google.
in this chat is killing me.
What?
People think we talk over each other, but there's like enough delay in between hearing people talk that it's really hard.
When that thing popped up, it said it was a bunch of Google stuff, but then at one line said info. I remember it says info@youtube-creators.com, and I'm like, that's not a website. So I just went to youtube-creators.com, and it was some garbage, nothing website. So I was like, oh, that's a scam, and I just moved on. And then it was like 2 days later, I saw people commenting in like a chat about it, and I was like, oh, I probably should have warned people.
I never would have fallen for that if it wasn't.
Oh, it wasn't the
for
coincidence, yeah.
The coincidence, yeah. And
I
I'm
don't-
just thinking, like, statistically speaking, if you blast that out to enough people and someone has just created an AdSense account and then to themselves thinks, like, wait a second, did I accidentally do it twice or something? And then they fall for it. Like, you get even
I
like
could definitely
half a
see it.
percent of people.
And I know there was a weird thing with this one that even though it said info, it had like that wrong address at the top. If you went to where the message was sent, they sent it through, because it was sent through Gmail or something, it appeared that it came from a Google account. Something like that. So people who did try to check were still kind of tricked. All I thought was,
Yeah.
I was like, man, if there's an ad, because I was messing with AdSense at the time too, but not in the same way. I didn't create a separate account. I was like, if they have a problem, they'll contact me. Worst case scenario, I don't get paid for a few months.
For the people that are watching this video, you probably are wondering what I've been doing. I've been trying to feed a squirrel a peanut, but I never got it. I got really
Okay.
close, but I never got it. They probably
So
saw
when,
it.
is there no screen on the window?
No, I took it out so I could feed the squirrels.
Ah,
That
duh.
is a very Kevin thing.
But oh yeah, and I want to ask people in the comments, put down, have you ever almost gotten scammed before? Like, what's the closest
Yeah.
you guys have gotten to getting scammed? It's been pretty close for me, but that's because I was trying to like bait the scammer, and I thought the scam was one step away, like a couple steps away, but it was actually the next step was the scam, getting scammed.
What is the scam? What is the?
He basically
Kevin
called,
got
and, I have like a
outplayed
registered business, so they can just kind of go online and see who's got registered businesses, and they like do these cold calls, and they say, hey, like your payroll is out of date or something. You gotta like update your payroll. I forget what it was. It was like somebody saying that one of your employees didn't get paid. I'm like a lawyer representing him. You gotta add me to your Zelle account, your bank account. So they wanted me to add their like email address to it. And then like I had to type in a code. It's like, so what they did is they sent me a code, or they said, okay, you're going to get a code in your text message and you got to like put this code in on the computer or something like that.
Right.
And if I put that code in on my computer, they would have had access to my account. But I thought it was like, if I put the code in on the computer, like I didn't think that was the end stage of the scam. So it's like the verification code, but I kind of thought that like, I don't know what I thought. That that
You know,
wasn't
it'd be
the actual
funny if you did
verification.
that, but you like go make a new bank account and like withdraw, so you have like a negative balance, and then get the scammer in there
Oh, that would be good.
and give them full access to this bank account that has no money.
And then the bank would probably come after them.
I just
So, yeah.
remembered I got scammed once.
You actually fell for one.
Well, it's an atypical scam, and it hurt. It still hurts to this day. It was in a video game, though.
Okay.
Did you buy a girlfriend on RuneScape?
And no, this guy was
I've never
pretty
played
bold. Like, basically, the scam was there's an item in the game that you can't trade. Like, and this is real. You are actually unable to trade it. They made it untradeable so that it would be like special that you achieve something, but you can trade it by dropping it on the ground and then picking it up. Someone else can pick it up. They put it in the game for like whatever reason, but it turned out it was a little bit of a sketchy thing because people would try to trade it, but to do it, you'd have to trust the guy would drop it after you gave him your stuff. But that wasn't what happened to me. I met this guy and he was really cool. I played a bunch of games with him, but he told me, he's like, oh, if you want to try a build with these items or this item that you can't get, I'll just lend it to you. So he actually just gave it to me. And so I used it for like a few days, and then I gave it back to him because I was not trying to scam him. Then he's like, oh, would you actually like to try these other items? So I was like, sure. So he gave a bunch of stuff, and I gave him like something small in return, like kind of even of a trade. So I was like, oh, cool. This guy's like a cool guy. And then I think he gave me the password to his account and said, if you want any of the items, feel free to just drop them to yourself whenever. And for like days, I would just use the items on his account. And then one day he's like, I think he asked, like, he's like, hey, dude, you've been using my account for a while. Like, do you mind if like, he asked me to give him like some other items. So then I was like, okay. So I gave it to him, and then he logged off, changed his password, and then I just lost my items. But it was like the most bold scam.
Is that a scam or is that guy a psychopath?
Yeah,
he gave
seriously.
me the password to his account.
That sounds like just like someone who is what is someone who takes advantage of like human?
But like
empathy
I
and
was
doesn't care
like,
about-
this scam at any moment I could have just changed his password and it would have been like, if I was like, he must have trusted that I don't know, maybe he thought I was just such a loser that
No, this is someone
like, it was just
who
weird. Like
is-
the risk he took for what he got was not worth it. Like I felt horrible because I gave like all these items that I'd worked for, but in reality, it was like what he had on his account was worth like 50 times more.
Oh, really? So he scammed you out of just like an insignificant like amount of
It
his
would be
total
like
worth.
it would be almost like a guy with $100 million talking to you, being like, "Hey, man, you can just like have access to all my stuff and everything," and you're like, kind of like, I don't know, you can borrow my Toyota if you want to drive around. And
Dude,
then one day he
this is
steals
like-
your Toyota, and you're like, "What the hell just happened? Why would you do
This
that?"
is advanced manipulation though, because it's like saying the kind of thing of almost like your parent. Yeah, this person, they like raised me for this many years and they pretended like they cared for
Yeah.
me, and then they scream. You know, it's almost
It took like
it's like
it was like
worse
a week
than
and a half
scam.
or like two. It was like it was long, and he risked so much, and I was just like,
That's psychotic.
It was weird. I mean, look, I was like, he got me. Okay, he got me bad, but at the same time,
That's not
like,
even no.
he
That's like
risked a
trust
lot.
issues though. Like what you lost was something far more valuable than whatever item he took from you.
I was more confused
Like
than anything.
that's the kind of stuff that will damage your interactions with people for like decades.
I know.
Like you'll never trust anyone. You'll feel like anyone who's trying to be friends with you is like out to like take advantage of you, and you'll be super cautious. That's really messed up, honestly.
I was like mad, but at the end of the day, because it was a video game, it didn't affect me that much. But I was mad. I remember being like, man, I had access to his account. I could have just stolen everything. It's like, but didn't,
that's the
'cause
thing.
I thought he was a friend.
He took advantage of
Yeah.
you being a good person. He
Yeah, I
took
thought he was,
advantage of
like-
you interpreting his behavior as wanting to be a friend. It was almost like he was strategically behaving like he was courting a friendship.
But
He
it's,
used it as a strategy.
It's so bold of him because I could have been just like him.
That's not bold, dude. That's monstrous. It's like worse than that. It's like that's actually truly like. How old were you?
I had to have been like 16 or something.
Hey, I got a question.
Yeah.
Like, what if you had like a romantic relationship that had the same thing happen in that sense, where like, assuming you have a girlfriend and you know she's got like she's kind of the same situation, like she's from a family that has a lot of wealth, right? And so like, you know, they're like, oh yeah, sure, yeah. They kind of treat you like a son, right? And then all of a sudden, like, just everything's just like stripped away from you, and then like everything's cut off. I've seen those kinds of situations. So it's like kind of analogous to that, except in like video game world.
form.
Dude, money is they say money is power, and like it's more like control. Like money is control. Like you can sort of manipulate people, and I think that that's very psychologically damaging territory to be in like a relationship with somebody whose family or they themselves are kind of controlling things by turning the tap on of money. Like it's almost like this looming threat kind of.
Bernard, I've seen
I
something
don't think that's a very healthy way to live your life.
similar to that, but it was the opposite. It was like these two people were together. The girlfriend broke up with him, but he was like, you know, the parents liked him so much they kept up a relationship even after they broke up.
Oh yeah, there was a tweet about some woman, like, what is it? She like broke up with this guy, and then the guy still played chess with her dad.
Yeah.
And like she was like super pissed off about it, like, stop playing chess with my dad.
That's awesome. Dude, oh man, I've seen that a couple times. It's kind of sad where like someone has a really good relationship with like the rest of the family, and then all of a sudden now it's like they have to like completely prune this part of their life, including, you know, like maybe a kid. Like let's see, I've like read some Reddit posts about people dating like a single mom or a single dad, and like they get to know the kid, and like they kind of act like a surrogate parent, and then they
Oh,
break
yeah.
up, and they're just like, oh, you can never see the kid again. And it's like, oh, like, whoa, because you have no authority or you have no nothing. Like, there's no.
That's when you kidnap.
This is why you just live. You know, you get a like a prefab, like a trailer. You put it in the middle of nowhere, and you just live by yourself until the day you die.
Yeah, no. But I was gonna say, so what might have prevented me from trauma was that before this, I was a RuneScape scammer.
Oh, scammer.
So-
This was probably
scammed.
okay.
So no,
this was probably
Will,
actually
when I
somebody
got
coming
scammed,
back at you.
Yeah, when I got scammed, I was like, you know what? This is how it feels.
All right, how does the RuneScape scam work? How were you scamming people?
Were you a double money scammer?
No, those people are cringe. Actually, I scammed those double money scammer people. It's super easy.
A drop party scammer.
Well, do you know what the double money, like the RuneScape money double thing is?
No, I wasn't a big enough loser
People,
to play RuneScape growing up.
people go like, I'll double your money, and they claim they know a glitch, and they're like, here, test me. So they always do like something like, give me like a certain amount, and I'll show you I
a
double
Ponzi
it.
scheme.
No, but
it's a Ponzi scheme.
No, but basically the idea is you give them like, let's say 100,000 gold. They give you 200K back and go, look, it works. Now give me a real investment. You give them 2 million, then they keep it. But what I would do is you go to them and you give them 100K. They give you 200 back, and you go, oh wow, it works, thank you, and then you just leave, and you get them so mad because you just keep doing it to all of them, and then they want their money back. That wasn't what I did as a scam. We claimed that we would randomly message people and claim that we worked for the company.
Jagex.
Yeah, and that we need
remember.
their password because I don't remember why we claimed that we needed their password. People just gave it.
So you're the reason it says customer support will never ask for your password. That was you, Nigel.
Well, and what happened was it's so horrible to admit this. In my defense, I was 12 or 10.
That's no excuse.
No, I'm saying that in my defense, I was
To the
scamming
chopping
fellow
block.
10-year-olds.
Off with your head.
Sorry.
Off with your head.
But what happened was
Shows you've had malicious intent ever since.
we would name our accounts like RuneScape Police or something. And,
Oh my god.
and people would get tricked. And the funny part is, as we kept making these accounts, the names with like police and other stuff would get banned because we
So you have to start spelling it with like zeros.
we
instead of
we came
O's.
up with different names. But we scammed a lot of people. And then
You know, okay,
But
the
I was
only,
10 I was
like-
10 to 12. So like
The upside of this whole thing is I think it's better to get scammed in RuneScape than getting scammed out of your real money in real life.
Oh yeah, for sure. Well, I mean, as a
Like-
10 or 12-year-old, it's probably just as bad, or
but
maybe
that's
worse.
A better way to learn a lesson than like a real life lesson.
I mean, arguably, I'm saying, in some of those games, we spend like 1,000 hours getting something. It feels just as bad. And then,
Well, yeah, it feels bad, but it's not like your life savings is like half.
oh,
what it
like
used to
you
be
don't
anymore.
actually have like when you're 8 and you have no money and all you do is play games. Yeah, you're right. You feel bad, but there's no actual real life repercussions of like you can't afford rent now because of your mistake.
Right.
That is true. But
We can't
that's
afford to retire.
how I learned how to be skeptical. Games, man.
You guys read about Fortnite?
I played it yesterday.
I played Fortnite with Michael back in like 2018, and we played it for a bit, and I kind of hated it because of how sweaty the build mechanic was.
I kind of
And they
like
just
it.
released a week. Well, it's going to be after this podcast comes out of like no building. Have you played it?
I played it yesterday.
How is it? I kind of want to play it now.
You can try. The problem is like it's the new season that just started. I haven't played it in months, but it's like every game when they have seasons, the beginning is always not balanced. So it's like they have guns that are just overpowered. They tend to put just like vehicles in that are
Wait,
annoying.
is there ground loot? Is it all ground loot still, or can you build a loadout or something? Or how does
Oh,
it
it's
work
all
now?
just ground stuff. There's no loadouts.
Oh, so you could pick up OP weapons then.
yeah.
Oh,
but
that's balanced then. If you
No,
guys
no,
everyone
well,
is, if it's fair game.
I'm saying it's balanced. It's unbalanced. Like it's kind of like, I mean, the equivalent could be COD, where it's like they do this new update and then the shotguns one shot everybody. So it's just kind of like if you don't have
Those are
one,
the best
you just
updates,
lose.
though.
So it's like
It gives you a
except
reason to
in-
go back on and play.
But in this one, in COD, you can choose those items. In like Fortnite, you just find them. So it's like
I think
early
that's
on.
better.
The problem is that playing for when there was building and not building, when there were these overpowered weapons, at least when you could build, you could like put a wall and run away. Whereas now there's no running away, you just die. Like
Yeah,
unless you can
a real captain
severely
sinks with his
outplay
ship.
with pure skill.
You just gotta like
you
play
just die.
buildings and like hide around rocks and actually.
Yeah.
Well, to give you like, I mean, to give it one example, we were trying to guard this place, and there's like a zip. I only played it 3 times yesterday, but like, there's a rope that you pop up on.
I only played it 3 times yesterday.
I rage quit. Like the rope that you just pop up on, and my friend's like, "Oh, they're coming up, fight them." So I had, a pretty decent gun. The guy pops up and just 1-shots me, or 2-shots me. He just goes, "Doo, doo," and I'm dead. And I'm like, well, okay, he has the strongest gun right now, so there's no outplay.
You got outplayed, dude.
It's an automatic shotgun that has a huge spray.
Yeah.
So it's like
I haven't
it's
played
kind
since-
of hard to outplay it.
I haven't played since they got rid of factories. Can I get an F in the chat? Guys,
don't even know what that is.
factories,
What
the
are
one in the
factories?
middle of the map.
Oh, like
By
the
I don't
Dusty
know.
Depot. Got hit by
I don't
the
know.
Dude,
meteor.
I haven't played Fortnite in like actually like 2 years, 3
I only
years.
played it like 6 months like 6 months ago. I played it for like a couple weeks casually, and then now I played it a bit more.
Games are completely different than when I was playing them like 6 years ago, right?
Yeah,
Because
dude,
it's like,
Pong. Things have gotten crazy since Pong.
thank you.
Dude, I've played. I think the most like the software that I spend the most time in is Premiere and Call of Duty. I actually don't want to know how many hours I've spent in COD. It is bad. It's so bad. I've
Wait.
never played it in my entire life.
You know what game I've started to play? First, I'm on
What?
free ski right now. I started playing
Are you gaming?
Agaria.
No, this is a podcast. You're not supposed to game.
I didn't know what it
How
was.
unstimulating this conversation.
Oh wait, my
is.
mouse is now stuck in the window. What?
That's because you've been scammed. You thought it was a free game.
The game
It was
Agaria. I've been gaming on.
Oh, God.
I've just been playing dude, Agaria. I don't know what's up with that game. I just play it too much.
What
I
is
went
it?
know
through a
what it
phase where I
is?
played
I
all
remember
of those,
that.
just one after another when
Dude,
they
it's-
started coming out.
Dude, you're just moving, the little blobs around. I think I spent in the last week probably like 15 hours on it. I don't know, maybe more.
Oh no.
Wow.
Wow.
It's like mesmerizing.
I mean, that was from like what, 7? It was like 2014 or 2015 when it came out.
Probably.
First, right? I remember it was like PewDiePie played it, right? And then he would like, remember you just like fucking scream
Dude, it's
at
so
the-
frustrating.
Yeah. People would just mess with you.
It's a great game.
I downloaded BioShock. I've never played BioShock, and it's like supposed to be really good. I remember it being a big deal back in the day. And for the first time I ever played it, I downloaded it for the Nintendo Switch, and it was dog water. It was so bad. Like the controls had it was painful latency, very difficult to aim.
Original BioShock
I can tell you
or
why.
Infinite?
I mean, it was
All three.
ported to
It was the
Nintendo.
original. Yeah, I paid like $60 for all 3 of them. And I played for like an hour and just rage quit because I was like, this is miserable. Like, this is such a bad experience. I like, it was too late to return it at that point, too, because I'd bought them a couple weeks prior.
The original one, so I remember I got the original like at Circuit City in 2007, and like it messed up my computer and then I couldn't play it ever. But it was thanks. But like I didn't like the first one as much as I liked Infinite. And like Infinite, I think was awesome. I really liked Infinite.
I was trying to find out how you could search for how many hours you have in Warzone because I really want to know.
No, I don't want to know. I don't want to know.
I do.
If there's a way to do it, I don't wanna know.
308,000 hours.
It's
I can log on and
thousands.
tell everyone how many games you've played though.
It's like when I played Guild Wars, you could type like /time or something or play, and it would tell you how many hours you've been in the game. And I remember every time I typed it in, I was upset.
Like, man, if I was working even a minimum wage
WoW
job,
used to
Yeah.
do that too. WoW was awful. I remember, what is it, in like 2004, 2005, you have like 60 days logged
Yeah.
into WoW and it's only been like 3
Yeah,
months.
that's like 60 days. That's not
Been
bad. And
out.
you're just like, wait, it's been 90 days.
It's only been out for 3 months.
You're like, oh no. Oh no.
Okay, what is life though if you can't spend 2/3 of your time in a video game?
Yeah.
Like, what's the point of living if you're not allowed to
Well,
do that?
2/3 of your time, the other third is sleeping.
Dude, what did people
Yeah.
do? Honestly.
South
what
Park
did
is a
people
pretty
do
I
good
almost
before?
failed
documentary.
out that semester, yo. Like it wasn't good.
Dude, I
Probably
mean,
just make a bunch of babies.
it reminds you whenever the power goes out, just like your entire perception of entertainment changes. It was years ago before we had phones with data. when the power went out, it was out for like a day or so. My friends would just come over. And we would just go outside. We'd just do stuff outside. It was crazy.
You know what we need to do? Each of us needs to tell a story of something they've done this week that is good for a title and thumbnail. Because I've been trying to come up with titles and thumbnails for these podcasts, and we don't have any good clickbait stories, and the views are down, or the podcasts are getting worse. I don't know. I'm just gonna say it's the titles and thumbnails. So
I'm just gonna put this out there. Like last 2 weeks have just been like probably the worst weeks for a long time. So it hasn't been good. I don't know, something about this month all of a sudden. Like I got sick on February 28th, and then just from that day, I'm just like, what
did
hell's
you get
going
sick
on?
with?
there we go. That's the title.
I got some kind of flu, and I had the COVID tests from the government. Like they mailed them to me because I ordered them. And like I was using them, and I'm like, it's not COVID, right? So it's like you just have like this low grade fever. I'm trying to like cook my own food. I'm like just suffering. And then I think that day, like that I felt the worst from the illness, I like put up a Snapchat video, and it like took everything for me to like get out of this chair to like actually do it. And that was like a couple weeks ago. And then like the next video that was supposed to come out didn't come out on time. Everything has just been messed up. And then like stalker people, I don't even know how else to describe it. It's just like everything.
What do you mean? What's stalker people?
So stalker people, I'll give you one example, and this is one of many, okay? So there's somebody that I know from like, I don't know, 10 or 15 years ago. The time that I knew them is like a lot shorter than the time that I haven't known them since, okay? And so this person a couple years ago started texting me, okay? And he said something that kind of kicked me off, that I'm like, all right, that's it. Like, I'm not spending any more time with this, like a block, okay? But for some reason, on every single possible outlet, this person has been messaging me, right? Whether it's like through some kind of like messenger, some kind of program or whatever. And so like recently there was a Russian artist who said like, hey, I can't be posting on Instagram anymore. I'm going to Telegram. So I'm like, all right, so I got Telegram so that I can see what the Russian artist was doing, because I really enjoy their work, right? And so, I get on Telegram, and lo and behold, this person who I've blocked for 5 years now has started to message me on Telegram. And I'm like,
me too. How do they find you on Telegram? How does that happen?
I don't know. I have no idea. And so it's like, their name shows up, and I'm like, okay, so what's going on? And then, so I remember their phone, like their thing has been blocked. So I unblock them to see. And I realized for like the last 4 or 5 years, this person has been messaging me 2 times a month, every month, like religiously. And I'm like, and I haven't responded to anything. And I'm like, what goes on in your head that like you're doing this? Like,
That's like in hindsight, this is something that they would bring up like in the documentary about why you were murdered.
Exactly.
Like this
right?
is a red flag.
Yeah, it's like this person. He's a professional, right? He's highly educated. He's got kids. He's married, and it's like, what drives somebody to do this, right? And it's like, and it's not only that, but like there's like other instances of something similar, and it's like, dude, I haven't talked to you for 5 years. Like, what are you doing?
Do they reach out to you
Like, stop.
on like a fan basis, or is this like a friend, like a personal level type friendship thing?
It's like a personal level kind of thing. And it's like, they'll bring up stuff from like 10 years ago. Like, hey, do you remember this? And like, it's like, I'm not going to respond to that. Like, what's the point of bringing that up? Right. So it's like, it's like really like some of the stuff I don't even remember. And it's like obscure stuff. And it's like, why? Like, how is somebody still that persistent? I don't understand.
Do you have any idea if they're doing this just to you or to a bunch of people?
That's a good question. So I'm not 100% sure, but I remember during the time that I knew this person, there were like a lot of other people in the same group who were like, yeah, no, like we were trying to limit. So I think like this is like maybe unique to the person, and that they've been doing it to other people, but like it's just amplified for some reason. And it's like how do you find me on all these other platforms? and just start how? Like, what's possessing you to do that? I don't understand.
Sounds like somebody who is maybe has some sort of like social behavior problem. Not like behavior, but like social
awareness, maybe.
Yeah, well, it's like sort of autistic, right? Where it's like you have trouble interpreting and like navigating social cues, right? So like maybe this is someone who, because it doesn't sound malicious, so it doesn't sound like maybe stalkery. It's almost like they don't realize that you guys were friends or associated a long time ago. They kind of just see this bubble of people that they were friends with and kind of solidified that and just project it forever without realizing that maybe you don't have any reason to talk to them and like wouldn't want to talk to them. I don't know if that makes any sense. Like imagine like you're in high school and you go to jail when you're 17 and you get out 20 years later and like you're so, I wonder what this person's doing. And it's almost like they're sort of trapped in time a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, there's really no explanation, like the persistence over years. And it's like when you've gotten no feedback, no response for that long, like.
What are the conversations about though? Is it like,
so a lot of the messages, like they'll hinge back on like certain, like I don't know. A lot of it is, I can tell, is designed to try to get me to react to it. And like, as the years went on, it started to become like something that this person was trying to get a rise out of me. And I'm like, well, first of all, I never saw those messages, so whatever. But then the more I looked at it, I'm like, what is going on? Like, how does somebody just keep doing it? It's like, on Twitter, like Dolan Dark he'll make jokes about people who've like messaged him every day or whatever, right? And this is like a real life, like it's like for him, he does it as people, just random people on the internet. This is like people that I know in person, and it's like,
so how many more people are doing this to you?
There's been a couple more, and like some of them are kind of like the same in the vein of Dolan Dark. So it's like,
but then you know them personally.
I don't know. No. This one I know personally. Some others I don't know, right? And I've never met in person. But it's like you're also getting that too, and it's like I don't understand like why, right? And even for social media stuff, like sometimes I'll have somebody else also help me with that, and like sometimes they'll just be like, this is off the wall. Like this is, I don't know what to do or say. Like you can just put it, like you don't want to block the people, right? But you also
I know.
be like,
I go through the same thing. I've asked Will and Nigel, like, how do I go about this? Because you feel like blocking somebody like that could escalate the situation more.
I
Because
think you just got to
that's admitting that you've seen it, and that's what they want.
No, Will's right.
make
Outstock them. Find out where they live.
Yeah, make them
and
uncomfortable.
obsess about them.
Yeah, get a restraining order, but it's not against them, it's against you.
They still can't come near you.
I have people show up to the house sometimes, and you can tell, pretty much, it's always obvious. Because first of all, like nobody ever comes here, and so when somebody does, and they fit a certain demographic, it's like, okay. And I always want to tell them, I want them to like feel, I want them to truly understand. I haven't done this, but I just think it'd be funny. Tell them to imagine, like, is there a kid at your school that you think is kind of weird? And they'll be like, yeah, but what's his name? And they'll tell me the name. This is like, that happened. And I'm like, all right, imagine that guy just shows up to your house, knocks on your door, and asks to see you. How do you feel? Because that's how I feel right now. Like, it's weird.
I feel like there's people who would like not pick up on that though.
But
and
that's the problem. A lot of people will. And like we noticed something when Michael and I lived together. That's I think when we had the most hype going on too, because it was like two people in the same house, or two YouTubers, whatever. There was like, it's funny, like barriers, like a gate. A gate is like a really good barrier. It's like people will very, very like, they're very avoiding of permeating a physical barrier to like enter your space, like your house or your yard or whatever. But if you don't have a physical barrier like that,
that's your door.
They
right?
can just sort of come up to your door, and then knocking on the door becomes the next barrier where they're like, ooh, is this like, do I want to do this? Like, do I actually want to knock on the door? And so you would sort of see like people who are normal will feel that hesitation. Like they'll feel the sort of like that imaginary barrier. And sometimes people just don't care, and so like there's like nothing you can do about that, and that's the kind of person that's going to be the most difficult to deal with. Like this is kind of a weird thing to say, but like it's never the cool person that's going to show up to your house.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's like someone who would just show up to your house is probably not someone that you could ever even learn to be friends with in real life. You know what I'm saying? Like if you want to be friends with me, the first step is don't show up to my house
Yeah.
if I don't know you.
It's like there's a certain amount of like decision making that goes into doing that precludes having a friendship with somebody because they make bad
Yes.
decisions.
Yes. Yep.
And you just don't want
It's
to
like
deal with that.
you literally are not aware that this would make me uncomfortable. You're probably not somebody who would recognize other barriers in a friendship.
Ironically, you're more likely to become friends with you by not showing up to your house and never meeting you.
Yes. Yeah.
Here in DC, I went to a dinner, and it was in one of the neighborhoods where there's a lot of important people. And so I remember there were actually Bearcats right. So it's like a big truck kind of Hummer tank kind of thing. And it was blocking like the intersection of the circle where people were living. And so I remember I was with my friend, and she told me, if like when you get a chance, just kind of subtly look up and then tell me what you see. So like we were walking over to this place for the dinner, and then I kind of like looked up, and then I saw somebody in the window, and then we walked in to have our dinner. There were people checking our IDs before we even got into this person's house. And then I told her, I'm like, were those snipers? And she said, bingo. And I didn't realize that kind of level. I mean, the neighborhood. If anyone listening knows about DC and Northwest, I mean that's basically where
like senators
the
live.
high. Yeah.
So they're like always there?
I don't know, but apparently like some of these areas had like places rented out, and like there was Secret Service there to just make sure that stuff wasn't.
Dude, could you
going
imagine? That's
awry.
like the more I do online just videos, and I don't even know what I call this. The more I realize how horrible it would be to be like a politician and like the type of person that takes to be a
Harassment.
politician. Dude, you could be the best politician in the world. You could make everyone's lives better without them realizing it, and there's still people trying to kill you.
There would still be somebody that would shank you in an alleyway. 100%.
Yes.
Like no
dude,
matter how
you could be the
altruistic and good of a person
Right.
you are, somebody will hate you.
number
for
one
that.
president. You could be the everyone agrees, or most people agree, this is the best president we've ever had, and there's still somebody who would try to kill you.
Yep.
I wonder if that's a more recent phenomenon though, because like they were even saying in like 1860s, right, when it was still Abraham Lincoln, and like DC was not as established of a city as it is today. Like he would let people walk into the White House. I don't know how true this is, but like it was more so open in a sense, unlike today where there's gates upon gates that
media
push
has done that. I think
barrier
media has
back.
made people more sensitive or more like aggressive, because it's like you're distributing way more real-time information about politics, and so people are sort of more well-versed in what's going on, if that makes sense. Because otherwise it's like back in the day, it was like presidents would have to like literally travel state to state in like a via horse.
I would argue that the barrier to like assassinate a president now is just as high as it was when Abraham Lincoln was a president. Because like if you hate Abraham Lincoln, right? You've got to like travel to DC on like a
Right.
horseback ride. You've got to like get a gun, which costs like 10 months.
More than a house.
Yeah, exactly. You've really got to like hate somebody to carry it out.
It took a lot of effort. It took a lot. You need to be really motivated.
Exactly. And now it's the same thing, there's just anybody, if it was the same way, you could get every crazy person that ever wanted to just show up at the White House. But now, 'cause you can get there easily. There's a lot crazier kinds
Right.
of guns you can
That's
buy.
a good point.
There's
Wait,
no bulletproof glass back then.
I shared a picture. It's like a classic photo of JFK with the kid behind him pointing a gun at his own face. It definitely, things were more relaxed back then.
Like, here, hold my gun.
Well, it's like the kid just has a realistic looking gun. He's pointing at his own face. Like nobody really, it just looks so relaxed. Whereas like right now, the president could never be in a situation even remotely similar. Having people that close.
I mean, so we're now coming on to where 2019 was simpler times, right? And even with like the hyper like cycle that's going now, like we've even gone to the time where it's like early 2020 was like the good old days, right? Just because like things just keep piling more and more on us. And so it's like, obviously there's more terrible things going on in other parts, right? And it's just like for us, it's like the burden of the news, at least. It's still not a physical burden, but you know, just the burden of the news itself just keeps piling more and more on us, I feel.
I have a solution to that, which is the same as a solution to avoiding getting scammed. It's just don't care.
Plug your ears.
Just really just say,
No, okay, here, let me give you an experience I had like last week. I'm on YouTube, avoiding working.
Classic.
I see a video, like it's like a minute-long video or 2-minute-long video of like, you know, KTLA, Los Angeles News, of like, oh, some, you know, hit and run or like a shooting or something. So I click on it and it looks pretty, you know, new. It's like within the day. And I watch it and I'm like, okay, it's your typical just news crap. And then like 30 minutes later, go back on YouTube and there's like this other video recommended of like, you know, car chase, KTLA, like, 2 hours ago. And I'm like, man, things in LA are like, what's going on in LA? And then, so I look at it and then like, you know, I get recommended another one. And then I'm starting to think to myself like, wait a minute. I think this shit's always going on.
Yeah.
And YouTube just decided to start recommending it to me. But the fact that I even had the conclusion was like, what is happening in LA? Like what is today? Like what's the day? What's going on? Like it, like my perception was that there's something going on in LA. And it took me a second to realize that nothing has changed. I'm just being delivered these stories that I normally don't see.
Yeah,
you know,
for
I would
sure.
hear that a lot. Like, oh, you know, these cities are horrible, overridden with crime. Like, look at all this bad stuff happening in cities. And like, you know, it's not. It's every city is like basically the same. I mean, surely some are worse than others, but they're thinking like this is a brand new epidemic of crime happening all over the place.
Yeah. Dude, that I was actually sort of like mortified when I realized, like, I'm like, how many people don't really understand how YouTube works are then just going to be like, oh my God, there's this huge influx. Like the more than the watch, like essentially the more videos you watch of bad news, the more bad news you see. And it just creates this like, like this accelerator.
So you're discussing like a 1 day time period. Like think about over years where now you just think LA is like unlivable, right?
Well, I mean, LA is unlivable.
Don't get him wrong.
So there's one thing. I used to live in Chicago, right? And so there was a phenomenon that I remember kind of confused me because there were some times where I didn't leave my apartment, and then I didn't realize that. So they say like Chicago, murder capital of the world, you know, more, at least, you know, 15 years ago, what is it? More people dying in Chicago than dying in Iraq or whatever. And I remember, and like, I didn't see any of that because of where I lived in Chicago, but like, I remember there were like mass protests at one point that were happening like just the street down from me. And I didn't even know that they had happened, right? And like I couldn't hear it. I didn't know it happened. And like I walked to get my groceries, which was the other way, opposite of the protest. And like just the fact that you're one block over and you don't know that it's happening, like like that was bizarre to me too. That like it's like complete opposite of getting constant videos of kind of normal things that happen in the city. I mean, I don't think we should accept it as normal, but it, you know, it happens when you have 7 million people in an area, right? So it's like.
Also, all the murders in Chicago are concentrated to like specific areas. It's not like the whole city.
There's like 3 streets. There's like a half a square mile.
I know. It is honestly
it's a pretty big part of the city, but it's like, you know, south and west, right? So.
But yeah, you know, people hear that and they'll generalize all of Chicago as like this gang wasteland.
It is, Kevin.
Right.
That's what I've heard.
Well, I've heard the same thing about Toronto.
Who told you this? Who
Quebec.
told you? Who told you these lies?
All right, Florida man over here talking shit about it.
I'm not going to defend it. something is actually going on down here all the time.
Kevin.
It's the water, dude. There's like most states put fluoride in the water. Florida puts
why don't-
crystal meth in the water.
Amphetamines, bath salts.
Amphetamines in the water. Not the good kind, the bad kind.
Why? So that is a good example. Like, you always hear about the news about the Florida man. Is that more so that we just hear about it, or is there actually more stuff going on in Florida?
I have read,
That there is actually.
takes for a grain of salt, that the Florida like police database is
Yep.
open compared to other places. Like, it's easier to get access to like mugshots and like reports in Florida than other places.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard that it's just as easy to get these kind of like this information from other states too.
Uh-oh.
And I think a lot of it has to do with how crazy Florida is. I don't know what it is. I think it's more than just the availability of the news.
I looked at it right now because I wasn't sure if it was true. Yeah, there is also a correlation between hotter temperatures and more crime. So places that are generally colder apparently have on average less crime. Like, there apparently
it's so
or
hot,
allegedly
though.
there is a correlation. So Florida
heard
being
that.
hotter more compared to the other states.
Does that mean maybe that it's like less desirable, so people live there for cheaper, and people who like have less money to spend on housing and stuff tend to? Because I think like a lot of sort of typical crime is like, I mean, this is like a weird sentence, but like it's more associated with poor people, right?
Yeah, and I bet if you look at like the statistics, it's like, education, resources for education and like crime are directly correlated, like inversely proportional.
Lower income means higher crime rates.
And there's a correlation with, I think there's like, I mean, this gets into the details of it, like higher policing rates also increases the crime rate too, like over time.
Is it because more crimes are being committed, or because they're catching more crimes?
Well, it depends on where they're from, but they catch more people on crimes like petty crimes that they normally wouldn't be caught. Then they go to jail, and then they come out with a criminal record and can't go and get a job. So they're just like, it just keeps this like cycle of crime going.
They install like red light cameras or like speed cameras, and they're like, crime rate triples.
No, that's obviously a different situation.
The city of Los Angeles has gone to hell.
4,000% increase in red light runners.
I mean, there's this thing where I remember I used to volunteer locally in my hometown with police officers, like teaching, I think kids under 5 about like traffic safety and all of that.
Oh, God.
But I remember I
Safety
talked with
town?
one of the.
You're from Chicago, right?
Yeah, it's a safety town. Yeah. Yeah, it was a safety town. And the thing is, I remember some of the police there, I don't know if this is the right word, but like police management, police directors, the overarching theme that they had was that crime is happening all the time, and it's up to the officer whether or not they're identifying it. And so by having that idea, as kind of the governing principle, if they impose metrics on police officers, then a lot of them, in order to, I could be saying this wrong, but if they want to preserve their job, they need to meet these metrics. And when you have that governing principle saying that crime is always happening, it's up to you whether or not you identify it correctly.
You have to decide how many bullets you want to put into the criminal.
Not like that, but like how many tickets you want to write, that kind of thing. So like when you have like when you have that philosophy and then you have numbers behind it, like that's where things start to get kind of it's like, well, do we have to look and see what's happening? So I don't know, like beyond that knowledge, like that's all I know from volunteering back in like 2001.
I grew up with police, like a lot of family and friends were police officers, and that I don't know how that doesn't make people's opinion about police more negative, having an experience like that, because you sort of start to just learn like that sort of typical, I don't know, it's like that old white man sort of mentality, like kind of a little bit machismo, like sort of like has a hard time saying, the kind of man or the kind of person who has a hard time saying I'm sorry. Do you know what I'm describing? Do you know what I'm talking about? Like that sort of
I
like.
know the stereo. I know exactly who you're talking about. Like,
Who? Exactly who? Kevin's
It's like
got an
middle,
image in his
late
head. Strong
age,
image.
like I would say like white men. It's like always. It's just, at least in my life, it's like a lot of white men.
it's the same person who takes a picture in their car with sunglasses on.
Yeah. They can't say I'm sorry. They can't sort of admit fault. I think it's difficult to sort of like look within themselves to be like, well, maybe I'm the problem. It's just sort of everyone around them is the problem. I think there's a lot of police that are like that, because like that's my experience. It's like not all like that, but there's a lot of like just sort of I would say it attracts a certain type of personality. And it kind of is like a thing that people enjoy the position, at least from what I've seen. You know, like what I've seen too is a lot of reserve deputies too. That's sort of like where all these people are from. And reserve deputy it is not a full-time employee. It is sort of like a volunteer position. And so it's like, and this makes it almost even weirder, but it's essentially someone who gets to be a police officer and is like, you literally are a police officer, but you don't work all the time. You like work a couple times a month. You like do these, weekend shifts or something like that, which to me is like, why are you doing this for fun?
I don't, I would say like if numbers are being applied, a lot of times like making numbers is not fun. Like, and it's like, I don't even know, like there was this meme back it's like 20 years ago about like a ticket quota and like around the holidays, like, you're going 4 over the speed limit. Now you have a speeding ticket, right? Yeah. Because dude needs to hit his Christmas.
Yes, that's happened to me.
Right. Ticket quota. I don't even know if that was true, but it's like, you hear about stuff like that and it's like, cause the town that was in, it was like, that was really all you got was just traffic tickets. But sometimes it'd be like $300. It was only 4 over the, speed limit. So it's like,
we have entire towns in Florida that are built around that like model.
I've gotten one ticket my entire life. I was, we were living in the house that burned down. Well, this was before it burned down. We weren't living in the remains of the house. And there's a intersection right before the house that there's a stop sign on 2 sides and just a through street on, across. And it's really hard to see because there's like, it's a narrow street. There's cars parked on the side. So it's like hard to kind of like look around the corner and see if there's cars coming. And so sometimes, those situations where you sort of just have to like, you look, there's no one there and you're just like, I'm going to go. And if I like pull out in front of someone, like it's not going to be right in front of them and they might have to hit their brakes. But like, otherwise you're never making it across this intersection because you just can't see well enough. And so I did that, as you always do. And I'm driving up the street and going to the house, and all of a sudden lights come on behind me. I'm like, okay, like I don't know where this guy's going. So I pull over, let him pass, and then the police officer pulls up behind me. And I'm like, what did I do? Like, what in the world? Like, I was thinking to myself, did I not stop at the stop sign? But like, I always stop at stop signs. And he comes out, he's like, I pulled you over. I'm like, no, I have no idea. And he's like, a moving violation. You pulled out in front of the cars, like you shouldn't have pulled out in front of them. And I was, like, are you serious? Like, no one got close to me. They might have had to like slow down a little bit, but it wasn't like there was tire screechings or someone slammed on the brakes. It wasn't even, you know what I'm saying? Like it wasn't a close call or anything. And so he's like, okay, license and registration. And we were in Chelsea's car. And so I give him my license and registration. And then he asked for insurance. And I didn't really know what I was supposed to do. I was like, do I give him like my insurance? But like, I don't have my insurance. So am I supposed to give him the insurance for this car? Like, I didn't know. I didn't really understand what. And he didn't try to like help us through it either. He wasn't trying to be like, oh, well, if she has insurance in this car, like that would apply to you. There was no attempt to help us remedy it. And we were like 100 feet away from our house. And so I was like, hey, like, can we just go up here? I'll get you the insurance from my car. That's in my car. I'll give you that because I don't have an insurance card in my wallet. And then he said no and gave me a ticket for not having proof of insurance. And I had to go to the courthouse, sit for like, wait for like an hour. Like the whole ordeal took like 2 hours to like wait in line, pay $25 processing fee, show them my insurance, and then not have to pay the actual ticket. Like at what point of that was any like real actual crime committed?
I heard of.
It could have been committed.
All I heard
Will.
was a story about a guy who didn't have his proof of insurance.
No, but the thing is there was
justice
proof of
served.
insurance. The vehicle had proof of insurance. It was Chelsea's insurance, not mine.
I don't know, man.
And that would, I'm pretty sure, I still to this day have not really looked into it, but like that I think would have covered me. Because like, when you have your auto insurance, are you supposed to carry that with you or with the car?
Both. Well,
probably both.
mostly
right?
in the car.
Right. I still don't
But
know.
I care,
but like,
I do
if
both.
she has her insurance, Like, does someone else's insurance on their car cover someone else driving the
Yes,
car?
usually.
I'm pretty sure it does. So why didn't he try to work with us to explain that?
I mean,
Because we had it. We literally had
you
it
have a
there.
platform right now. Ask him.
I don't know.
Reach
I mean,
out to him if
that's-
you're watching this.
So that's the only ticket I've ever gotten. And then here's the worst police experience I've ever had. Well, I mean, we've had guns pulled on us before, but that was like making videos shooting like with airsoft guns. They don't like airsoft guns. That's just stupid though. But like the worst police experience I've ever had, where it was completely unwarranted. Like this actually still makes me mad to this day. I'm coming home from college, and there was an accident on the 101 on the freeway where a police officer was involved. So it's like there was like someone in the car, like a police officer with a suspect in the car, and they got in an accident. And when they do that, they like shut the whole freeway down. I don't really know. Anyway, so it's like I'm on the freeway, come to a complete stop. Everyone like turns their car off because you're not moving for like forever. Go to turn the car on, won't turn over. So the battery had died, or the alternator was bad and the battery had died. So someone helps me push my car to the side of the road. I call AAA, but AAA is like, we literally can't get to you because traffic has been backed up like so badly from this accident or from this like traffic closure that we can't get to you. So I am sitting there. I think it took like 3 hours. It was an insane amount of time. I was literally sitting there for like 3 hours or like maybe 2 hours.
Just on the side of the road.
On the side of the road, on the center, and then AAA calls the guy's like, "Hey, like, are you on the center by any chance?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Okay, I'm gonna drive on the other side of the freeway, and I'm gonna pull on the center divider, and then he's gonna jump over the K rail and jump my car." So he does that, and also I had called CHP, I had called the non-emergency line, and I called CHP and I said, "Hey, I'm stranded on the side of the road. AAA is coming, but I'm just parked here in the center divider." So after AAA jumps my car, and I like if I turn my car off, I'm not gonna be able to turn it back on. And after like right when AAA is leaving, Highway Patrol comes up and starts asking me questions and asks if I've been drinking. And I'm like, no. And then he sees my water bottle in the center console and he's like, "Can I see the water bottle?"
What's this?
He
Water?
takes it, he opens it, and he smells it. It's empty because there was water in it. And then he does the like field sobriety test on me. And I'm like, I told him, I was like, if you ask me to shut my car off, I'm going to be stranded here because they just jumped it. Like he saw AAA jumping me and still came over and like issued a field sobriety test.
Wow. That's like malicious at that point, honestly.
Yeah. And ever since that, like it just like half these experiences I've had with police officers, and like my personal experience, like it just attracts like the worst type of person for that position.
So
50-50
it's a dangerous
experience.
job, though. I mean, it's like I don't know.
I don't envy it.
I had I got one ticket a long time ago. I was interning at this company, and it was well known when you drive from one campus to another, it's like a trap. You're going to get a ticket if you don't do exactly what everything says. And like, you know, because you're dressed up in a shirt, like they know they're going to target you. So I didn't know that, right? And so it's like I stopped at the stop sign, but like you didn't come to a complete stop, you know, where your seat goes back, right? So it's like, you know, you didn't come to the complete stop. You didn't count 1, 2, 3 before driving again.
You didn't look both ways. You didn't, you know, air out.
Get out of your car, check it, make sure it's all good.
Yeah, right. So I got the ticket for not stopping at the stop sign, and then and what was interesting was the police took my license and like took the insurance card. He like took everything out, and like he took it, and he's like, "You're gonna have to get this back at the court."
What?
So it's like, okay. And what like the terrible thing about the situation was that later so like basically it goes 2 weeks. I don't have a license, and I'm like, I need to get to this job. Like I have this ticket, and that's going to prove as my license or whatever. So the next 2 weeks, I got nothing wrong with my car or whatever. Like no stops by the police. And then like, it's like, when am I going to get my license back? So I called the courthouse, and the courthouse, they were like, "Oh, so let me look into this case, and I'll call you back." And later that day, I got a call back and said, "Oh, I'm really sorry. We're going to forgive this ticket." And I'm like, that's a sigh of relief. But then the clerk told me the reason why is because your license is still in the policeman's car. He was shot the day that he issued the ticket to you. We had to take his car back. He's still in the hospital. And I was like, whoa.
That's wild.
Right. And so it just kind of like highlighted to me like how dangerous.
I got
Yeah, there's like some mixed feelings in there you're not allowed to share.
I know. I'll say it.
Okay, here's my analogy of police. If you go to McDonald's and 10% of the time they spit in your hamburger.
Wait, really?
No, it's a hypothetical, Bernard.
Not every employee at McDonald's spits in your
I
hamburger.
mean, I prefer it, but
I feel like people have a hard time understanding that, like, even if 10% of your experiences are like that, where you're just sitting there, like, you know, I would say, I don't want to say you're a good citizen, Bernard. You know, I don't know if I'm a good citizen or not, but like for the most part, I do everything I'm supposed to do, and I don't do things I'm not supposed to do. Why am I being harassed for like that kind of bullshit? Or like, why are they taking your driver's license?
yeah, that was
Like,
weird.
what was the
I don't
justification?
feel like, is that standard practice?
Because what do you do with your car? Did you drive it away after that? Because now you're driving without your license.
And then he
Like,
stops
I
you
don't-
immediately.
Yeah, then he, exactly.
Got you.
He's like, are you gonna? He's like, he looks at you. Are you gonna move this car? I'm gonna ticket you if you don't. You can't leave this car here.
Yeah,
And
he's
you're
like, were you
"Okay," and
seriously
get out
gonna
and
move it?
And then he pulls you over for driving without a license. Like, I don't
Got him.
understand. Like, how are you supposed to navigate that?
Yeah, the ticket was like the proof of my license, like in case I got stopped again. But basically after that, I like the company I was interning at, I'm like, you know what? I'm taking your shuttle. Like if it takes me an hour and a half to get to your other campus, that's on you. Okay. I'm not like, you guys are paying me to do that. Yeah, it was ridiculous.
I've never heard of that before. It doesn't sound like it even makes any sense.
Apparently it was well known in the company that like everyone is going to get stopped at some point for even like you stop a little bit over the line, like they'll get you too. And it's just like silly things like that.
Maybe they're just suckers in the sense that they can tell that they're not going to fight the ticket or not going to really put up a big fuss because they're just like, they're new around there and they don't really know what's going on. Whereas like if you have a really established guy and they try to pull him over, he might be able to call somebody and then complain. I don't know. So they're just
Nigel,
kind of
how many
like
tickets have you had?
easy victims. Me?
Yeah.
I got one 2 years ago. It still haunts me to this day. I was going 400 kilometers an hour on the highway. No, I wasn't. I just rolled the stop sign. But what happened was it was the winter and I was sliding through the intersection, through the stop sign. And it got to a point where I was in the intersection. So I'm like, I'm just going to keep going. It was also at 3 a.m.
Does that count as rolling?
Sorry?
If you come to a stop, if your wheels aren't spinning, and you like slide through the stop sign,
So
does that count as rolling
so
a
here's
stop sign?
I said this to the cop, and he did get me because what happened was, it was at 3 a.m. and I had to wake up the next day at 7 a.m. to go snowboarding. So I was kind of like,
I had to.
well, I had plans with a friend that I couldn't cancel, or I felt bad canceling, and I didn't plan to stay late. So I was just annoyed. So what happened was, as I started rolling through the stop sign, I was
Sliding.
over it or sliding over it a certain amount. I just said screw it. But as I was doing that, I had the fear if someone sees me, they'll think I just rolled it. Versus if I just kept my foot on the brake, I'd slide right into the intersection. And right when I did that, I looked to my right and there's just a cop with no lights on, and I'm like, really? But then as he pulled me over, and like I said that, and he said the thing back where he's like, yeah, but you didn't slide. Like I saw your wheels moving. And I'm like, okay, fair. Like, whatever. I'm not going to fight that. But what I want to say, then he goes,
I had
have
something
you
very
been
similar
drinking?
happen.
And I was like, no. And then he's like, why?
You're like, I am very
I
well
never drink.
hydrated, officer. Thank you for your
No,
concern.
yeah. But it's like, he goes, have you been drinking? I'm like, no. And he's like, well, I smell alcohol. And I'm like, well, I haven't.
Oh
no, but
my
just listen.
God.
He goes, I'm like, well, okay.
Like, officer, have you been drinking?
No, but I'm like, okay. Like, I haven't been drinking. I was also in like a bad mood because it was so late. But then he goes, then what's that? And I forgot.
And you had been pulled over.
My friend Peter had left a bunch of beers in the back seat. So he goes, then what's that? I'm like, oh, those aren't mine. No, because I just said that. I'm like, my brother was in the car. I'm like, that's my brother and my friend who we just dropped off. He must have forgotten his beers. I'm like, I don't drink at all.
This is like,
It looks so bad,
that's
though.
just so,
You know?
yeah. I have no sympathy for you.
I was in such a bad mood. Like, I was annoyed that I got pulled over. So I was about, like, when he took my license and stuff, I went back to the car, and I told my brother, I'm like, if he comes back and like says he's gonna breathalyze me, I'm gonna be pretty aggressive.
You
No,
have
like,
to-
if he came
at
back
that point,
and-
though, if there's like open
They
containers,
weren't
that are empty in
open.
the
They were
car
all
and like,
closed.
Oh,
It was just
well, then
like
how did
it
he
was like
smell
a
alcohol?
I guess it was like a 6-pack, but like 3 of the beers were gone. Like he didn't see empties, and it's because we were at a friend's
how did he
place, and my
smell
friend just
alcohol?
brought the beers he didn't drink back with him.
Is that the cue that they have to say I smell?
I don't know.
alcohol,"
When he
and
said
then
that, I'm like,
that's
really? Like that's
their-
like. But the one thing though is after I talked to my when he went back to the car, he talked to my brother. My brother and especially my friend Peter had drank a lot, so my brother was like, it is possible because we just dropped him off that we do smell like beer. So I was like, that is a fair. My brother goes, that is a fair point,
Right.
but. I was like, if he comes to breathalyze me, because I never drink, and I didn't drink like even a sip of alcohol that night. So I'm like, if he comes back and starts alluding to it, I'm just gonna tell him like, breathalyze me right now or stop talking about it. Like I was in a bad enough mood that I'm like, I'm not gonna like argue anything. Just breathalyze me if that's what you want to do. But he didn't. He came back and he was actually
Yeah.
very nice. Because what was bad was I rolled the stop sign, but I didn't have my registration because I had just gotten it in the mail. So the
Right.
new, and I forgot to put it in the car, and it had just come in time. So he was nice. He didn't
God,
ticket
this is
me
reminding
for the
this is giving me
registration.
so many more flashbacks to my own stories. This is,
But he was very
nightmare.
nice.
This is like PTSD.
Actually, he was very nice. Like he told me, he goes, I literally watched you just go through a stop sign. So he's just like, I'm gonna give you a ticket for that. He's like, but for the registration, he's like, that's fine. He's like, I believe that.
Yeah, because you already paid.
No, but he go.
Not having the registration is like a minor crime compared to not actually
Oh
registering.
no,
the
but
vehicle.
I just yeah, he checked in his thing that it was registered. But I'm saying technically he could have fined me for that, right? Technically.
Yeah, if he was a
I'm just saying,
total
so
jerk.
he decided to not be a complete douche about it.
Do you know what? Okay, this is my I just don't understand how people defend the police as much as they do. I registered my car, and I registered it late because I was trying to get it smogged, and it took me like weeks to get it smogged, because I was having problems with it, and I got it registered, passed smog, paid, and like 2 days later, there's a ticket on it for not having
yeah.
the registration sticker on it. Do you know what I had never received in the mail because I had just gotten it registered?
Anything?
The registration sticker. How can I get a ticket for not displaying my registration
No, Will.
when they haven't even
Will,
given it to me
Don't
yet?
freak out. It's simple. It's okay. It's part of the system. All you need to do is go down to the courthouse and show them.
No. Oh,
And
yeah.
You just have
Yeah,
to
that-
show
that
them,
was- that was
and the
that,
ticket
yeah.
will be thrown out. It might only take you 6 hours, but don't worry.
It was like $65
Yeah,
too, and
the
I was like,
ticket'll- the
there's
ticket'll just
no
be
way
thrown out.
I am taking 3
Yeah.
hours of my day to make this $65. Like I
gonna
called
drive
them and they
downtown.
basically said you have to
Yeah.
come down, and I'm like, dude, this is the 21st century. We have computers. We can like look at galaxies in space with satellites that we launch into space, and somehow the database can't see that my registration sticker has literally yet to be delivered to
I
my
think the worst
house.
part is that they can see it. They just are like, well, it's not in the window or whatever. So technically,
I mean, Will, you're a lot of the points you're bringing up, it sounds familiar to me because of like big city problem. Like I've almost always lived in big city, like after 18.
Yeah.
So it's like, Chicago, New York, DC, and it's just loads of people everywhere. And so it's like the police can sometimes give you like bureaucratic lockout problems. In smaller towns, like I remember just earlier in my life, like I didn't have the same degree of issues, and that's just because it was a smaller town. Now, with that said, that same small town, my mom's been bullied by the cops before for driving, right? So and it's like, but I don't know, like I guess the experience is I don't know if I would want to deal with cops in a big city again, just because.
I was gonna say too. I feel like American cops, like I feel like American traffic laws are way more severe, like the punishments, than the Canadian ones. Because I remember when I was traveling through the East, like down to New York and New Jersey and stuff. Like here, there's not like, I don't know. You could speed, and like the worst you'll get is a fine. But when I went there, my friends were like, "Oh, you'll go to jail for if you were going how fast you claimed you were going. Like you would go to jail." And I was like,
Were you 15 over the speed
"Oh,
limit?
I was like 50 over the speed limit.
Oh,
Like
dude,
it was a
yeah,
55
you'll go to jail
mile
for
an
that.
hour zone, and
Holy-
it was 105.
You were going 105
Sorry,
miles
yes,
an hour?
exactly. Yeah, but me and this other guy, we were cruising. So I figured he'd get got
where-
first. It was a bit
What
dangerous.
50-mile-an-hour road was... How could you even go 100 miles an hour on a 50-mile-an-hour road?
In Nevada, like when we drove through the desert and stuff, because we didn't even think about this. We maxed out the cars, like going downhill. Like I don't know how it was. I don't even know. It was over 200 kilometers an hour.
Man, just because the dial goes up that high doesn't mean
We
you should
literally
go up
floored
that
it and would just go and like. But
I paid for the whole speedometer. I'm going to use it.
yeah, but here,
high. You get mad at them when it won't go all the way up to the top. You're like, I was even going downhill a little bit. Why does it say 160 if I can only go
I
120?
could be wrong, but like here, if you're on a straight highway, if we had a desert, and you were going like double the speed limit, like 150 miles an hour, and nobody's like, if you're not being reckless, I feel like you just get your car impounded and you get a massive fine and your license taken away. Like, unless you're doing something like blatantly endangering other people, like I don't think it
I
won't.
got my minivan up
It
to
won't be like a
110.
criminal charge. I could be wrong, but it's like I feel like speeding and other stuff, like traffic related stuff, is just
Hold
more
on.
serious.
I need
Where
your
you
help.
guys
If
are.
anyone speaks Spanish, tell me what this person's
Oh, yeah.
saying. Hola. Hello? Of course they don't say it. I've been getting spam calls in Spanish, and I have no idea how to make it stop. The second
No, you just keep picking them
I
up.
push
Just
the
keep
button,
picking them up.
I think it's the right button. I don't know. I don't speak Spanish. They're not supposed to call me anymore if I press don't call
Oh, no,
anymore.
don't
They
click
still
that
call.
button.
So I asked to get on and talk to somebody. So I'm like, okay, I'll press the other button. It's either uno or dos. I know that. And then I say, hello, hang up.
You know what? Don't interact
I
with
feel
them
like-
at all.
But it's like, how do I know? It's like random numbers every time.
What I do, and this is what everybody should do. Everybody who listens to this podcast needs to start doing this because this is the only way we can combat these spam calls. Is you have to pick them up, and you have to talk to the person on the line, and you have to just keep giving them garbage information. So like sometimes what I'll do is I'll speak really shitty Spanish because it's just the best
Yeah,
Spanish I
to
have.
me that's just Spanish.
And it normally works. They'll hang up pretty much immediately. I got absolutely wrecked one time though, because then they started speaking Spanish back to me, and it was up. The gig was up. I couldn't fake it anymore.
What?
And so then
I would just
hung
say
up
it's
on
bad.
them.
Like so, at least when I get them, I don't interact and I just block them because at least what I heard was if you interact and they know your number's good, right? That like someone will answer.
Doesn't matter.
I don't get
Doesn't
spam
matter.
calls ever, so my techniques it got really bad once.
I think that-
but then
but-
it stopped.
We're talking like, if you waste so much of their time that the business model no longer is profitable,
Yeah.
that is how you get.
I don't
rid of
know.
You
it.
need, like-
I haven't gotten a spam call like
If
in a
everybody
year.
answered it,
You need like civil
everybody
disobedience
answered it.
towards
Yeah.
the scam.
I can't remember the last time I got a scam call.
if you could even waste like 10 seconds of their time, that is so much better than ignoring the automated system, because the automated system is like keeping their time as
Yeah.
open as possible. The instant you can violate the automated system and go to a human, you've actually made their life
I
a
get
little bit
maybe
worse.
3 a day.
What?
Spam calls.
Kevin, I've not gotten
Oh, yeah.
zero in
I get
2
less.
years. I'm sorry, I've gotten 0 in 2 years.
Canada probably has
Yeah.
better rules.
No, we
probably
actually
have, like,
got
actual-
my phone. I have a secondary phone for like the office. It got a
Wow,
spam
so now
call
you actually have, like,
yesterday.
2 phones.
I get spam calls like somewhat frequently because I don't block the numbers, and it's like because I don't answer numbers that aren't I don't
It's
recognize.
all spam, William.
It says potential
Like, did I
spam.
look at-
Don't answer it.
Yeah, 3 a day, and then
Is
William
that the
Osman.
only
at the
phone
bottom.
calls you've gotten today are spam? That is so sad.
Yeah.
And William, yes, spam and William, which arguably is.
I know, I don't know what's
It's
worse.
arguably all the same.
Actually, probably every actual phone number on here is spam. Like it says the real phone number.
Kevin, that's
but if you call them,
horrible.
it says like
It's all
this phone number is not a
it's all
working number.
spam.
Wow.
So like the only person that calls me are Will and my mom. So I know that none of these are real.
I don't know. I feel like it's bad though when you're getting more spam calls like than actual real calls. Dude, how has nothing been done about that either? How is there not like a harsher punishment? Like if you're a company that gets even dinged once for that, like how do they not just completely eviscerate you for like abusing the
I
phone
know a lot of them
Like,
are
what
like
if I-
India based and stuff. Like you,
I feel like I'm gonna start making like actual death threats to scammers, like
Kevin.
so in depth that they're gonna like have to file a police report, and then
Oh,
I
yeah,
can
yeah.
like find out who they are
that's
from that.
Kevin's
Right.
technique.
You know?
they like have to provide their information.
Yes.
And then you can follow through.
That's a
Yeah,
genius
exactly.
technique.
Yeah, I just think of like how much money it wastes of just successful scams and just wasting people's time. Like the opportunity cost of someone just being able to literally do anything other than talk to a scammer. I don't know. I complain a lot about like mass scaled time waste. Like if you're designing a user interface and your interface is bad and you waste like 30 seconds of someone's time and then you scale that up to like 100 million users. Like imagine if Amazon has like if there's an inefficient part of their code base that adds an extra 30 seconds to everyone's shopping experience.
Oh my God. This is exactly what Bernard's talking about with like the quotas and the police. You go to Harbor Freight and they're like, what's your phone number with us? Shut up. I don't want to tell you my phone number.
no.
You go to Best Buy. What's your account? Do you have a phone number? Shut
They
up.
charge you
I don't
full
care.
price.
If it's the manager, I will yell at them. I'll say, I'm not giving it to you. I'm not. And they, the employees will complain. They say, well, we're supposed to get your information for like
You know
our
what?
quotas.
You
I
know
don't
what one of
care.
the most amazing phenomenons in modern history is? Like they say that like one of the best inventions back in the day was plumbing, right? Like plumbing like revolutionized society and kept people healthier because you didn't have a bunch of shit and piss laying around. Corporation. The idea of a corporation of do not yell at this person on the phone because this is just a poor employee. Who am I supposed to yell at then?
The managers like purposefully
Yeah.
insulate themselves so you
Like,
don't have to deal with this.
Yes. They literally pick up human shields that are exactly like you. Some poor person
Yeah.
just trying to like make your way through life and pay for rent and like, get a better job so you don't have to work at this place. And they pick these people up and use them as a human shield. And then people come at you and say, well, it's not their fault. And it's like, it is quite literally their fault because they are a part of this company that has caused these problems for me. And like,
Yeah.
I don't understand how people don't see that. Like, who am I supposed to get frustrated with? Do you think that the CEO is going to pick up the phone when I call him so I can yell at him? No.
I'm going to be honest. So, as somebody who still works,
Someone who
right,
has a real
full-time.
job.
So like we were talking a couple weeks ago about like hiring people, right? In terms of like helping us with YouTube stuff. But like one of the management golden principles is that when you do a job, what happens is that the quality of the job doesn't necessarily funnel, like the information about the quality doesn't funnel its way up. What funnels its way up is that when it gets serialized into numbers, as you go up the management chain, the performance at the lower levels just becomes a strict numbers game. So like give you an example in sales, right? Salespeople, like and we see this on YouTube all the time in terms of the people coming out saying like, hey, this company wants to sponsor you. And sometimes like they'll just blast out emails. And like, if they're emailing William Osman, they might put Chubby Emu's name on there. Or if they're
Or it might
emailing
say,
me, they might
insert
put
bracket creator
Yeah,
name.
exactly.
yeah, hello,
Missing
creator
web
name.
Love your
We love
channel,
your videos.
channel name, insert bracket.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Missing web
And
elements.
so from the sales perspective, right, like their manager and then their manager's manager, right, the only way that they can see how that person's doing is by how many people that person is reaching out to.
Yeah.
So it becomes a strict numbers game. And so it's like I would argue you don't necessarily want to yell at the worker bee. Who you really want to go after is the middle management
that?
who've instituted the system where everything has to make them look good so that they can funnel the numbers up
Now,
the chain and
how do you-
management.
But you
if
see the
yell
problem.
at them enough, it'll make its way. It'll happen.
But this is like, I'm not mad at someone who's just trying to pay their rent. I'm mad at the fact that the corporate structure has like that is exactly the point. It is quite literally the point is to isolate you from anyone who actually was responsible for making your life miserable. Like for example, so my internet provider, my old internet provider, Spectrum, they turned my internet off. And there was no warning, there was no nothing, right? Like if you don't pay your power bill or whatever, you're gonna get a warning that says like final notice. I never received anything like that. They shut the internet off, and I went and looked. I called them. I said, hey, like I literally thought that there was like a network problem. I thought the network was down. I said, hey, is there like an outage or something?
I mean,
And they said,
there's
no,
a big outage for you.
Well, yeah, we purposefully. We turned your, well, the weird part is that data was coming in like at a trickle, so I could still load stuff really slowly, which I don't explain that, scientists. They've shut my internet off, but
It's
I'm
a
still
leaky
getting,
valve.
like, some amount of, yeah,
Your
it's really
internet's leaking.
weird. Like, I don't think this is how computers work, but apparently it is. And so they refused, even after I paid, they refused to turn it back on. Because, like, long story short, like, they just didn't give me any, like, obvious notice. They were sending bills, but it was an auto pay, and the card had expired. And it just, like, slipped my mind. And there was no final notice, which I would have listened to, because when you get a bunch of the same email from, like, oh, bill, you don't look at it anymore. You just, it's been working, so it's going to keep working. So, long story short, they wouldn't turn it back on until the payment had processed. So it ended up taking, like, over 48 hours for the payment to process and them to turn my internet back on. And I was so mad at them that, like, I don't know who I'm supposed to get frustrated with. Like, who do I say, like, this is bullshit, I've paid, and I've been, like, a good customer for 3 years, just turn it
Say
back
that to
on.
your lawyer so that he can.
Like, the only person I can say that to is the sales support.
Yeah, but I
person, or
think
the
there's a
technical
way,
whoever I'm
like
talking
what
to.
Bernard's kind of saying too, is like so what I was going to say actually before is you don't have to, you can express your opinion and your anger without being rude and disrespectful to the person.
But do you know that will never
people are
actually
gonna
change
complain.
anything?
They're going to say, hey, you can't do that to the poor retail workers.
I've gotten
You know,
good
it's not
results by
fair to yell at them.
complaining nicely.
I was a poor retail worker. I worked at Dunkin'
Right.
Donuts. I worked at grocery stores. Screw these kids because they're all idiots. Like, I don't
Yeah.
care. People would yell
no,
at
but
me
I'm
all
saying
the time.
that
But
my argument is don't yell at them because often they know their system's bad. And like, for example, like I'll
Right.
name a shipping
yeah, like, I would
shipping
know it's bad, and
logistics
they would yell at
company
me about it.
Yeah, but
made
do
me
you,
angry.
do you
So
understand?
I'm just saying I spoke to the
Do you
person.
understand that is power to the company?
No,
Like,
no, but
you
just
if
listen,
you
just
not
listen.
yelling at them enables the company to use them as a meat
But you can express
shield.
your like frustration with them, and it was a shipping company that I did this with, and it's like when I did that, the person went out of her way to help me in ways that she like normally wouldn't, and it did help me. Like I actually got help. Whereas if I just yelled at her, it would have been like, well,
How big of a shipping company?
massive.
though?
I'll just say it's UPS. So it's like literally one of the biggest.
But when you're talking about
UPS
like
are
a service
independently
like
owned, though. The shipping
Yeah.
stores.
no, I called their corporate because I was pissed about something.
Okay.
I think that certain businesses probably have a better structure too, but like something like Spectrum, where they literally just
There's no way
tap
to
into
actually like
people's-
file a complaint
But
or talk to anybody that matters.
I know. I called many times.
There's
she
no
actually,
suggestions department.
she actually
No HR.
I complained enough and they did a good job. My favorite part was when I complained about UPS and she goes, honestly, they're terrible. She was
If you
on my
complain
side.
enough to the lower level employees, it will work its way up to management. Like if I got yelled at for
Here's-
something, I would tell my manager, like, I keep getting yelled at because the coffee machine
Right.
sucks.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, but I
that's
think
exactly
you
it.
can-
You almost have to make, like, if the employees are so uncomfortable dealing with customers because the customers are screaming at them and they start quitting, that is the only way that the management and corporate will like change the process. Which is like, that's not me getting mad at a customer. That's me expressing the frustration with the
Yeah,
structure
that's
of
fair.
a corporate entity that strategically makes it so the only way that they will put any effort into making their employees' lives better is if the employees are quitting because people are screaming at them
here's
because
the
their
thing. I
internet
guess
keeps getting
what
shut
all
off.
I'm saying is, as long as it does, because I mean, you hear all those, you hear like recordings and stuff of people yelling at the person like to tell them they're incompetent. Like that's not fair. But if you're strictly keeping it about the company,
Right.
then that's much more fair. Like you're not being disrespectful.
But like
to the
my question
person.
to you is, I pay every month for internet, like $80 a month, and there's a lot of outages. Like I have a lot of like reliability issues with it, and my card expires. They send one thing that says auto pay expired, and then 3 months later, the internet gets shut off. There's no final notice. There's no call. Like they put zero effort into trying to actually inform me that my service was going to be cut off. And then when I call them and say, hey, like, this was a mistake, like, I paid for it immediately when I found out, could you turn the service back on? And they say no. What am I supposed to do? Just be like, okay, I understand that's your policy, and wait for 48 hours for my internet to come back on?
Yeah.
And like burn through all my mobile data so I can
Just
work?
push a
Like,
switch. How hard is it?
That's it. They literally, they refused to turn it back on. They said it is against our policy to turn it back on.
What is it? What's
until the
their
payment
policy?
process.
Like being assholes?
We are an
Yeah.
asshole
Not being
to
an asshole.
every
So, like-
customer.
so,
That's
like,
a guarantee.
Right. The employee is following the corporate policy that was made by corporate.
Corporate
and
knows
if that
best.
gets them yelled at, that's the only way to put pressure on corporate is through the employee that you deal with. Because what am I going to do? Write a review? Like, yeah, sure, I can do that. But like, someone's going to be like, yeah, I'm not going to use Spectrum because like, no, you have to use Spectrum because it's the only freaking cable provider in your neighborhood.
I don't
And
know.
do you know that when like how good it felt to call them to tell them I'm canceling my service? Like, do you know what they did? They're like, oh, why are you canceling? And I told them, and the woman was like, oh, well, it looks like here that you hadn't paid. That's why they shut off. I'm like, I don't give a shit. I don't give a shit. Like, I know that. But when I did pay, why didn't they turn it back on?
Yeah. Oh no, it's your fault because you
And then
didn't
she's
pay.
like, yes, exactly. And that's literally what she said to me. Well, it's your fault. And I'm like, do you think this is going to convince me to stay with you guys? Because it's not. Because for about double the price, I'm getting 50 times the upload speed from a fiber provider. Why would I ever stay with you guys?
Yeah. I
But, like,
have some
that
homework
to me-
for our viewers. All right.
Yeah.
If you shop at Ace Hardware, Harbor Freight, Best Buy, or any one of those other companies that ask you for your phone number and your information when you check out, tell them to eat a bag of dicks and don't give it to them.
Yeah.
It wastes time. They're only collecting your data to sell it. What
Yeah.
they don't even need. They're like, oh, it's for tracking your rewards.
It's
you use the
marketing.
credit card. Like, why can't it track the purchases on that credit card? They can, but they don't. It's just like it wastes everybody's time. I hate it. I can't complain about it to them because they won't listen. So this is me complaining about it to you guys. So your homework is just to say no. Just say no.
Just say no.
Yeah. That's what I do. I
Kevin's
just, I say, you know what I say?
PSA.
I say no. They say, what's your phone number? And I say, no, thank you.
Yeah. Do you want to set
It's
up
not
an
even
account
an
with
answer
us?
that makes sense, but they get the point.
I think what's
And it's
worse,
polite.
honestly, than asking for the phone
I
number.
mean, that's what I say too, but they'll push
Is
it.
when they-
Harbor Freight, the people always push
But
it.
Kevin, what's worse is when they ask for your email, but it's an embarrassing email. So you have two reasons you can't give it to them.
No. That I would always. Oh my God.
That's genius.
Holy shit, Nigel. That is genius. Oh
I
my
mean, there
God.
is a video of a guy giving horrible emails.
Oh,
Yeah.
someone's done it. That's so good.
Yeah.
That is so. You like cum guzzler 69 420.
And you're like, and then when they see that, and you're embarrassed, you go, you don't tell me you think I made it when I was 12, and then it makes even less sense.
Hey, actually, speaking of that,
Speaking
today
of
I was
what? Sorry,
looking up.
Bernard.
I needed to find some. I needed to find somebody's email, and they have a private cancer practice in the middle of. I've never heard of the town, and like I was trying to find the email, but like the person had like a cum guzzler 420 like email
Nice.
in the website, and I was like, what? And like it was like a 65-year-old dude, and I'm like, what kind of email is this?
An
It was
email
like listed
of
on
someone
the
who's
website.
tired of companies asking for his information.
Yeah, probably.
So you're gonna
No,
ask
but,
for my
like, I mean,
email.
it was
I'm
like-
gonna be more than willing to give it to you, and I'm gonna spell it out really slowly and drag this interaction out as long as I possibly can.
It was just kind of wild that like the research team or like the coordinators didn't like just have his official email address on there, and I was like, what's going on? And then like emailing them, and then you don't get a response for like 4 days, and it's like, look guys, we have like FDA, I whatever. But looking that up and then seeing that on the website, I'm like, what is going on?
That's cum guzzler with 2 5s because Z's were taken.
Dude, I hate it when these are taken. I gotta use O's instead of zeros.
I know.
And zeros instead of O's.
Put some X's on before and after it.
But what do you think the guy with the original email when he does? So he didn't have to use any of those. He's probably pretty proud of his beautiful email.
I have zero patience for that time wasting, man. And like, especially with engineering, like if someone engineered a user interface in a way that is like confusing, like I have a question for you guys. How many times have you used any of the features on your microwave?
Many times.
I've used the power variation button. You know, like power level 3.
But which feature?
That's the only one I've used.
Are you talking about?
Besides the add 30 seconds?
Like
and the
cooking a
power level.
potato
No.
or defrosting?
My mom's
No.
used them all.
What's the power level?
She uses like the defrost.
Do you know a lot of times that they don't even work because they're just timers? It's just a lookup table.
Yeah, really? I wouldn't. Mm-hmm. Yeah, like that's probably all popcorn is.
Like I would venture
Kevin,
to
the
say that
popcorn
if
button is
there's a YouTube channel called Technology Connections who's got a pretty good video. But like if you were to put popcorn in a microwave and use the microwave setting versus using the bag setting, that the bag setting will probably always come
I
out
just
better than the
listen to
microwave
when it
setting.
stops popping.
Well, that's the best way to do it. But like what I'm getting at is how many buttons do you think your microwave has?
15, maybe more.
30.
20.
I've got a really nice
Bernard.
microwave. Got like 50.
No, not to flex.
More
40
buttons than you,
His
Nigel.
microwave has about 40 buttons on it. 40 buttons. 40.
Is that what it says?
Now I have another question. Why, in the name of God Almighty, would a microwave need 40 buttons?
Dude, I had a microwave when I was growing up. It had like a rotisserie thing in it. Like it would, you know how it has a turntable on the bottom? This one had like a slot on the side. You could put like a rotisserie thing in and it would like spin.
That's a real
chicken around,
microwave.
and you could,
That's a real microwave.
Oh, man.
Wait, so Will, what are you trying to get at when asking why
Okay.
does a microwave have so many buttons?
Do you want to know how many inputs a microwave actually needs?
Maybe 3.
Because I'll tell you what,
Add 30
when they
seconds.
first made them, they gave you exactly what you needed.
on or
Two.
off.
They gave you a
right?
dial.
2 dials. Power dial,
Yeah.
timer dial. How
Yeah.
did 2 dials...
You could even pulse with the power yourself to vary the
Yeah.
the on and off to vary the average.
How did 2 dials turn into 40 buttons?
Continuous improvement, and they want to keep selling you more microwaves, right?
Yep. It's not about user experience. It's about the user's feeling of buying the microwave. They want it to feel high tech. They want it to look fancy. They want it to be like sleek. Like, oh, look, it looks like I spent money on this. Like the half the reason people spend money irresponsibly is because they want to convince themselves that they've, I think, achieved success. It's like why people get in over their head with a car lease or anything like that.
When I buy a good microwave, I know I've achieved success.
Dude, all I want is a microwave with 2 dials on it. I want a microwave that you could put literally within 2 seconds, every person in the world could figure out how to use it. Because I'm pretty sure most microwaves nowadays, you would need to actually look at the user manual to figure it out. Or even when you press the buttons and it tries to display text on the screen, but it's all mangled because it's like, 13 segment displays.
I
or
mean, I
whatever.
don't think you need a manual to figure out how the microwave works. They're definitely different.
I bet you if I brought you to my house right now, it would take you probably 2 tries just to even enter in a time.
Probably.
Oh, is it one of the ones where you have to push like time cook
Yep.
and then start
Yep.
put?
Yep.
Why?
Yep.
Because
God, am I crazy? Am I like an old
Because
man yelling at the
sometimes you
clouds,
can
or
just
is it
put in a
actually
regular timer.
brain dead? But why do I have to click
Cooked
add time,
versus, like,
cook time, then type in a
kitchen
number,
time.
then hit enter, when all I really have to do is... I have a question. How many times have you put a single second in the ones place? When have you put anything other than a 0 in the ones place on a
me,
microwave?
I have.
What? A minute and 35
Yeah.
seconds? What's the difference between a minute and 35 seconds, a minute and 30 seconds, and a
5
minute
seconds.
and 40 seconds?
I need the
What
precision.
is the difference
I
in
need
the final
precision.
product?
One
Like,
half of a
you
degree
literally-
Fahrenheit.
You would not be able to tell me which one was 35 and which one was 30. I'd put money on
No,
that.
I could tell you. I'm accurate to within 10th of a degree.
I don't even know if you
Like-
could measure the difference in water, honestly.
Yeah, maybe not.
Like,
I just
probably within
it makes me
the standard deviation of like power
My
fluctuation.
favorite microwave is the one my parents have. The one I have in my office, it kind of stopped working at one point, and I wanted to just like throw it in the garbage, but then it revived itself, so I'm mad because I have to keep it. It has a touch screen on it, but the touch screen is on the outside, but all the buttons that actually run the microwave are on the inside. Honestly, I still haven't figured out how to use it properly. My parents' microwave,
Oh, is it like when you open the door, there's like buttons at the edge of the door?
yes, but when you shut it,
I've
the
seen
touchscreen
that.
covers them.
Yeah.
My parents' microwave is just a dial, and then you hit go. So it's just
That's
just
what I'm
a
saying,
big
is a
dial,
dial-
Gas
and
stations.
then there's one
Yeah.
button that says power. I always like going to lower power, so I just
Yeah.
hit it 4 times, go to power 6. I flick the dial, it goes to like a minute 34. No, I'm joking. It's just random, and then I click go. Like it takes a second to do it.
Okay, so now imagine that somebody paid like hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars to like pay a team of engineers and designers to design a microwave that has a button panel on the inside of the door so that you can't access it when it's closed. Like, do you see what I'm saying? Like, what? Like the team
But
that
Will,
put
I
that
forgot
together.
the best part. The reason the microwave
Yeah.
stopped working was because the touchscreen panel was not communicating with the computer properly. So an error would pop up on the screen.
I'm gonna teach you how to hardwire a microwave so it's always on when the door is closed. So you close it, it turns
Yeah,
on, and then it turns off.
So that's good.
Will, you're now alluding to a point that I had a phone conversation earlier today with one of my colleagues. There's this thing that happens sometimes in really big companies where your job is it's not written, but your job is to make your boss look good. If you make your boss look good, you're taken care of. Yeah. Whether or not the work actually gets done is a different story. Right. And like I think that's like a legit problem that's happening right now, because some of the organizations have scaled up to the point, because it's like, think about it. If you hire an editor, like, you know, the editor's job is not to make you look good. The editor's job is to make a good video, right? And what I mean by make you look good is that in the big organization, we're going back to the numbers, right? So it's like your boss's boss is going to look at the numbers that you're generating, right? Mm-hmm. Whether or not they actually happen is a different question. So it's like it becomes like a different mindset. So with the microwave companies, like, look at all these new microwaves that we've come up with, right? And then they quantify it somehow. But the reality is that there might not be meaningful work that has gone behind it, because now they've essentially made microwaves worse, because, you know, you got to press 5 buttons to hit anything rather than just turn a knob and, you know, you're off to the races.
I have a question. Would you not want a microwave that has Wi-Fi and a camera that you could see your food getting cooked?
Dude, I want a microwave that eats my ass.
I want an RGB microwave. I couldn't find one. I was just
See,
looking.
that's where the money.
That's the real
that's where the money should really be.
But do you know how like the only way you can really do this is in the way that some of these microwaves do this is by measuring steam content. So like they'll measure steam, and then I think they'll try to keep track of how long it's been steaming. And if you take the weight of the object and the type of object and how long it's been steaming for, you can pretty much cook it perfectly. But a lot of microwaves, like I said, Technology Connections, you should watch his video on microwaves. A lot of microwaves will like emulate the features by just having lookup tables. And so it'll just give like a blanket time for popcorn.
I also like the thing too, where most microwaves, I mean, I think almost all of them, it's like when you lower the power level, people assume that it's actually putting out less power. It just turns your microwave full power, then off, and then on, and then off.
It's just the lowest duty cycle, or the lowest frequency duty cycle you've ever seen.
I think microwaves that use inverters. I don't even know if those do the same thing, but that's the only actual microwave technology that has come out since they were invented, is like a new type of power supply.
The one I have in my office just runs it at 100%. If you put it at power level 1, it runs it at 100% for like 3 seconds, and then it just does nothing for like 10 seconds. And then it just runs.
If you're microwaving your food, though, you really can't have too high expectations. Like I want it to be warm. That's it. Like it just needs to be warm. Why do I care like how perfectly it dethaws? And all right, thanks for listening. There's gonna be another the bonus Patreon episode. They have been going up like a day after. Okay, if you guys want to learn about how I found myself in a room with 200 abandoned office chairs, go to Patreon and support us there, and then you get the extra episodes. You get access to all of them. So if you have a long car ride and you want to listen to this, if you want to make your long car ride feel even longer. Yeah, you want to double the
length of that car ride.
All right. We'll see you Patreon people in a bit.
See you, gamers.